Welcome to This Day in His Story, created by American Heritage Worldwide. A reminder that every day holds something new to learn. Did you know that with only 2 years of formal education, Benjamin Franklin's scientific pursuits included experiments with electricity, mathematics, map-making, and the invention of bifocal glasses? Join Franklin as he floats down a river with a kite to further develop his electrical experiments and learn some of the wit and wisdom found in his writing of Poor Richard's Almanack.
Today we're looking at a figure who is, almost impossibly versatile. It feels like he was less a single person and more an entire institution.
That's a great way to put it.
We're talking, of course, about Benjamin Franklin, and we're going to be diving into the sources you send us to really unpack the sheer scope of his life.
And it's a necessary deep dive because for most of us, Franklin just exists in these little fragments. You know, the guy in the $100 bill, the kite flyer, the writer.
Right.
But the sources really show how it all connects. Our mission here is to trace that line, to see how a boy with, 2 years of formal schooling,
Things like that, yeah.
how he becomes this global titan in science and politics.
Yeah.
I think the central question is really, how did his nonstop drive for practical knowledge shape everything he did?
Absolutely. And the basic facts are familiar, right? Born in Boston, January 17th, 1706. But the detail that always gets me, that really grounds it, is that he was the 15th child.
The 10th boy.
The 10th boy. In a massive, busy family. He wasn't the center of attention. He really had to carve out his own space from the very beginning.
And that's the key, that necessity. It's what pushed his self-education. Given he had no diplomas to speak of, it's fascinating how he basically invented his own curriculum.
He had to. He was put to work so young.
At age 12, apprenticed to his older half-brother James to learn printing.
And let's unpack that apprenticeship because it's so foundational to this whole self-made man idea. At 12, he was indentured.
Contracted.
Exactly. Contracted to James until he was 21. And the sources are clear on the constraints. He couldn't get married. He couldn't do business. It was basically servitude.
It was. He was physically tied to the printing press, but his mind was, it was completely free. He was using every spare moment and every spare penny to buy books and just devour them.
Often late into the night.
Right. But the real genius of young Franklin wasn't just that he read. It was how he taught himself to write.
This is the amazing part. He would pattern his own writing after The Spectator, which was a popular paper from London.
He didn't just read it, though. He took it apart. He'd read an article, jot down some notes, and then try to rewrite the whole thing from memory.
And then compare his version to the original to see where he went wrong. It's like he was reverse engineering persuasive writing.
It's pure self-discipline. He was training himself in logic, in rhetoric, all on his own. And that skill, it became the foundation for everything that followed.
But then comes the drama, the real aha moment in the story. The sources describe his brother's treatment as harsh and tyrannical.
And for someone like Franklin, who valued his intellectual freedom so much, he just couldn't stand it.
So he does something incredibly risky.
He runs.
In 1723, with 3 years still left on his contract, he escapes and flees Boston. Breaking that contract was a huge deal. He was a runaway, legally.
If he'd been caught, the consequences would have been severe. But the risk, as you say, had this massive payoff.
Because that self-training, that writing skill, it was currency.
Instantly. He gets to Philadelphia, works his tail off, and in just 6 years, by the time he's 23, he's publishing his own paper, the Pennsylvania Gazette.
And he said it himself, didn't he? Something like, prose writing was a principal means of my advancement.
That's the quote. That clear, persuasive style he taught himself is what bought him his independence.
Okay, but let me push back a little here. We call him the ultimate self-made man, but he did leverage the trade he learned from his family, right?
That's a fair point.
Even though he ran away, his success was still built on the printing knowledge his brother gave him.
It's a necessary nuance.
Yeah.
For sure. The foundation, the trade itself, came from that family structure. But what the sources show is how quickly he went beyond just being a printer. He didn't just report the news, he started shaping public debate.
Using the Gazette to criticize British policy.
Exactly, and often with this devastating wit. He was building a business, sure, but he was also building a sense of civic duty.
And that business, especially Poor Richard's Almanack, is what gave him the financial freedom to do everything else. You can't talk about his science or his politics without acknowledging the money his writing made him.
Precisely. It allowed him to step away from the day-to-day and just follow his curiosity.
Which brings us to part 2, because that curiosity just exploded into science and invention. He was just this creative problem solver, even as a kid.
Right, there's that fantastic anecdote in the sources, the one about the kite in the pond. It feels like pure play.
So he's flying a kite over this pond that's nearly a mile wide.
And instead of just, flying the kite, he starts experimenting. He ties the string to a little stick, gets in the water, and lies on his back.
And finds that the kite just pulls him across the water, as he put it, in a very agreeable manner.
That's it. That's the Franklin mindset in a nutshell. Even leisure is a chance to test a principle of physics.
And the sources also mention he designed swim fins at age 11.
But for his hands, not his feet. He saw a problem. How do I move faster in the water? And he just built a solution.
And that exact same playful curiosity is what led to his serious work with electricity. He didn't invent it, obviously, but he really helped systematize our understanding of it.
And crucially, he gave us the words to even talk about it. This is where his communication skill, the thing he honed as a printer, comes back to help science.
Right, because there were no terms for these concepts. He had to invent them.
And we can thank him directly for words we use every single day. Things like positive and negative charge. And probably the most famous one, battery.
Let's stop on battery for a second. That word existed, but it meant something totally different.
Exactly. A battery was a military term. It meant a line of cannons, an artillery unit, a battery of cannons.
So he sees these Leyden jars that store electrical charge all lined up.
And he calls them a battery. He creates this instant perfect analogy that lets everyone understand the concept of many charges working together. It wasn't just a word, it was a mental model.
He also gave us conductor, condenser, and armature. He was literally writing the dictionary for a brand new field of science.
Which leads to the core question.
Yeah.
Why? Why was he doing all this? And the sources are very clear. It was all about practical solutions to everyday problems.
He saw a problem, and he just had to fix it. He wasn't interested in theory for theory's sake.
No, if it couldn't be applied to make life better for his neighbors, for society, he sort of felt it was a waste of time.
Which is a perfect transition to part 3, his practical inventor's toolkit. Let's start with one that I think a lot of us take for granted, bifocal lenses.
He was getting older, and like a lot of educated people, he needed one pair of glasses to read and another to see at a distance.
Yeah.
And he just got tired of switching them all the time.
So what does he do?
He cuts the lenses in half, takes the top from his distance glasses, the bottom from his reading glasses, and puts them together in a single frame.
It's so simple, but so brilliant. Think about the impact that had on scholars, on statesmen. It literally extended their productive careers.
And then you have the lightning rod. Before Franklin, lightning was this terrifying, mysterious act of God.
Right, and churches, with their call steeples, were hit all the time.
He theorized that lightning was just a massive electrical spark, and that you could guide it safely to the ground with a metal rod. And it worked. His design was adopted everywhere and immediately started saving buildings and lives.
It was a measurable, tangible benefit to society.
And then for life at home, you've got the Franklin stove. Traditional fireplaces were just horribly inefficient.
They suck most of the warm air right up the chimney.
The Franklin stove was this cast iron box that sat in the fireplace and radiated much more heat out into the room using far less wood. It was basically energy conservation, centuries at its time.
And what's maybe most incredible about all these inventions, the stove, the bifocals, even simpler things like the odometer for his carriage or the long arm for reaching books.
He never patented any of them.
Not a single one. Why?
He believed that since he had benefited from the inventions of others, he had a duty to share his own for the public good. He wrote that knowledge should be used to bless the lives of others.
Wow. That dedication to the public good is the perfect bridge to our last section, part 4, the diplomat and founding father.
Because it's the same mindset. He applied that same practical, problem-solving focus to building a nation. And his political life wasn't some late career shift. It was happening all along.
He was already a civic leader in Philadelphia, starting the first lending library, the first volunteer fire department. So when the conflict with Britain got serious, his reputation was already huge.
It was his fame as a scientist that made him such a powerful diplomat. When he went to Paris during the Revolution, he was already a celebrity.
And the mission there was critical. The colonies needed money, supplies, and formal recognition from a major European power.
Without France, America likely would have lost the war.
And he didn't show up in Paris like a stuffy politician. The sources point out his whole persona, the simple clothes, the fur cap. It was all very deliberate.
Oh, absolutely. The French elite were obsessed with the Enlightenment, with science, with this idea of the natural man. Franklin played that part to perfection. They saw him as this American genius who had literally tamed lightning.
And that image gave him incredible access and influence. He became the first American ambassador to be received by any foreign nation, and he secured the treaties that saved the revolution.
He was a master of the game. And then, when it came time to actually build the country, he was in the room for every major decision.
He helped draft the Declaration of Independence.
And later, the U.S. Constitution. He's the only person to have signed all 4 of the key founding documents.
The Declaration, the treaty with France, the treaty with Britain, and the Constitution, it's just a staggering list.
And his final great act was negotiating that treaty with Britain, the 1783 Treaty of Paris, that officially ended the war.
What a full circle. From a runaway apprentice in Boston to negotiating a peace treaty with the British Empire 60 years later.
He's just the ultimate example of someone who maximized every ounce of his intelligence for the public good.
So, wrapping this all up, what's the big takeaway for you, the learner? When you connect all these dots, the printer, the scientist, the diplomat, it all comes back to one thing. He defined his own education.
Exactly. He didn't wait for a degree. He disciplined himself, he pursued practical knowledge, and he dedicated everything he learned to the community.
His legacy is, I think, a kind of profound encouragement. His inventions, his civic work, they have all directly benefited our lives.
He proved that curiosity, when you back it up with hard work, can be the most powerful tool there is.
And that drive to bless the lives of others is the core of it all.
So as a final thought for you to chew on, something inspired by the sources themselves, we always remember Franklin, the founder, but if you focus just on his practical ingenuity, which he gave away for free, which of his inventions do you think is the most important?
The bifocals, the lightning rod, maybe the Franklin stove.
And the really provocative question is, why might that practical contribution actually outweigh his monumental political legacy?
Thank you for joining us for this day in his story. May the lessons of yesterday inspire you to see God's hand today and to play your part in his story now. For more faith-based learning, visit ahsworldwide.org, the homeschool for faith and family.